Artificial intelligence, AI. It's everywhere you turn these days, right? But here's the thing. It's not exactly a new kid on the block. We've got these excerpts, a brief history of artificial intelligence being one. 4 battlegrounds, power in the age of artificial intelligence. We've got breaking Twitter, and then there's kinds of minds. Talk about a philosophical twist. So, ready to take the plunge?
Yeah, let's dive right in. You've hit the nail on the head. AI's history goes way back. It's this fascinating intersection of, well, you guessed it, philosophy and engineering.
They've been intertwined from the very beginning, haven't they? Bit of a balancing act.
Exactly. And if you look at AI's early days, you might think it was all about making machines think just like us, replicating the human brain and all that. But as those clunky computers, remember those? Things like the Ferranti Mark I guzzled power. Like, imagine 3 houses worth of electricity.
It's mind-boggling when you think about it. 3 houses worth of juice just for a tiny fraction of what our phones can do now.
And that's the thing. The focus shifted from just mimicking human thought to something, well, more practical. Think making the best possible choices, even outperforming humans in certain areas. That's where those early expert systems like MYCIN came into play.
Now, for those who aren't familiar with expert systems, picture a computer program that could go toe-to-toe with a human expert. Take MYCIN. It basically revolutionized medical diagnoses by, get this, simulating how doctors make decisions. And in some cases, it actually did a better job at diagnosing certain blood diseases.
It was a game changer because it showed that AI wasn't just some abstract concept. It had real-world potential, even life-saving implications.
Which brings us to AI's impact on a much larger scale. 4 battlegrounds dives into how AI is shaking up global power dynamics. It's not your grandpa's arms race anymore.
It's a whole new ball game. The book really dives into the US and China as sort of this AI arms race, but it goes beyond military strength. It's about who can leverage data, algorithms, who can wield them more effectively. That's the new battlefield.
It's like AI is rewriting the rules of diplomacy and strategy, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's impacting everything from the economy to, well, cybersecurity, even how information spreads. This new landscape demands a different kind of thinking, a whole new understanding of how power works in the age of AI.
And speaking of shaking things up, breaking Twitter gives us a front row seat to disruption in action. Elon Musk takes over and makes it clear Twitter's vital for free speech, which he sees as crucial for the future of humanity.
And this ties directly back to his bigger worries about where AI is headed. Remember, this is one of the minds behind OpenAI. He's been pretty vocal about the potential dangers if AI development runs unchecked.
It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? You have Musk pushing the boundaries with self-driving cars, Neuralink, and at the same time, he's waving a red flag about the risks of AI.
It speaks to the two sides of the coin, right? Immense potential for good, absolutely, but there's also the potential for things to go sideways.
And it's not like he's a lone voice in the wilderness. Plenty of experts share his concerns, right?
Absolutely. And that's what makes his Twitter takeover, whether you agree with it or not, so fascinating. It shines a spotlight on one of the biggest questions we face. How do we balance progress with the potential downsides, especially with powerful technologies? More importantly, who gets to make those calls?
Now, those are heavy questions. And it leads us to another big piece of this puzzle. Us. Where do our minds fit into this whole artificial intelligence equation?
Well, that's where kinds of minds comes in. Talk about a deep dive. It really makes you question what it even means to have a mind. It challenges all those assumptions we have about consciousness.
I'll admit, Dennett's thought experiments in this book, wow. Mind-blowing is an understatement. Like those Gregorian creatures he talks about, constantly evolving their thinking, using tools from the world around them. It makes you wonder if we're already on that path. Our smartphones, laptops, all these devices, are they becoming extensions of our minds?
Now there's a thought. It's a powerful concept, especially now, as we rely more and more on technology. If intelligence is about what you can do, the ability to learn, to adapt, where does human intelligence end and artificial intelligence begin?
It really throws a wrench into our traditional definitions, doesn't it? Especially with AI getting smarter, more adaptable every day.
Exactly. Then it forces us to look beyond the physical stuff, what a mind is made of, and consider what it can actually do. It opens up a whole universe of possibilities, some exciting, others, well, maybe a little unnerving.
So, if how we define mind is changing, how does that affect how we deal with artificial intelligence? Especially as we develop AI that could potentially outthink us in ways we can't even imagine.
Now that's where things get really interesting.
Picking up where we left off, that idea of intelligence being about what it can do really makes you think,
It really flips the script, doesn't it? Dennett's point about sentience versus, now what was it? Oh, yeah, sensitivity. That's crucial here.
Give us a little refresher on that. I'm sure our listeners could use it too.
Sure thing.
Yeah.
It's easy to mix those two up, but there's a big difference. Sentience, that's about feeling, perceiving, those subjective experiences. Sensitivity, that's just reacting to something.
Yeah.
Like a plant, it can be sensitive to light, but it's not sentient.
Right. Perfect example. So with AI, the big question is, can we actually create something that's truly sentient?
Yeah.
Not just responding to input, but having actual feelings, experiences.
That's the million-dollar question. And you know what? Dennett doesn't pretend to have all the answers. Instead, he wants us to really look at our assumptions. Like, what if there are other types of intelligence out there, biological, artificial, that we don't even get yet?
Makes you feel kind of small, doesn't it? Like our way of seeing the world, of experiencing consciousness, maybe it's not the only way.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole AI discussion so fascinating. Imagine we make something that learns, adapts, even outthinks us. Then what? How do we treat it?
Do we owe it anything? Ethically, I mean.
Give it right. Big questions, right? If an AI shows that level of intelligence, maybe even awareness like us, is it a tool, a partner? Something else entirely.
It's not some far-off sci-fi dilemma anymore either. It's happening now with how fast AI is advancing.
Exactly. And it's not just about some Hollywood robot uprising either. It's about making sure we develop and use AI in a way that, aligns with our values.
Which circles back to Elon Musk and his worries about AI going unchecked. He's not the only one sounding the alarm, right?
Not at all. A lot of experts are saying, hold on, let's make sure we're developing AI responsibly.
Yeah.
Thinking about the consequences, setting ethical guidelines, steering this thing in a direction that's good for humanity.
So where does that leave us? We've covered AI's history, how it's changing global power, those mind-bending questions about consciousness, and these real ethical dilemmas. It's a lot.
We've only just scratched the surface, really. But the important thing is that we're having this conversation, grappling with these issues.
It can be a little overwhelming, though, can't it? Like trying to take a sip from a fire hose. Where do we even start making sense of it all?
That's where critical thinking comes in. Having informed discussions, being willing to ask the hard questions, challenge what we think we know, consider different points of view.
So approach it with curiosity, but also like a healthy dose of, wait a minute.
Exactly. No need to be afraid of AI, but we've got to be smart, recognize the potential, good and bad.
It's about finding that sweet spot, isn't it? Pushing the boundaries, but also making sure we're not creating something that'll come back to bite us.
Exactly. And that's on all of us, not just the scientists and engineers. We're all shaping the future of AI.
It's bigger than just the technology. It's about the choices we make, our values, the future we want. We're not just watching this happen. We're in it. And what we do now will affect things for generations.
Now, I know we've been in pretty deep, but it's important to connect all this back to you.
Right, because it's not just happening in some lab somewhere. AI is already here, shaping our everyday lives, sometimes without us even noticing.
Exactly. Think about it. The algorithms curating your social media feeds, facial recognition, those virtual assistants we talk to all the time, that's all AI.
And it's only going to get more integrated, right?
Oh, absolutely. The pace of development, it's incredible. Things that used to be science fiction are becoming reality. And that's why we need to be informed, engaged, help shape where this technology goes.
Okay, so we've talked about the past, the present. What about the future? What's in store when it comes to AI?
That's the big question, isn't it? It sparked so many predictions, some exciting, some, well, a little scary.
Robot overlords coming for us? Just kidding. Maybe.
I think we're safe from that, at least for now. But seriously, the possibilities are huge, both amazing and a little daunting. We could solve some of our biggest problems, disease, poverty, climate change, or we could create new ones.
It's like we're at a fork in the road and it's foggy up ahead. We can't know the future for sure, but we can choose which way to go. We can face this new frontier with our heads up, with compassion, and a goal of using this tech for good.
I love that. The future isn't set in stone. It's what we decide to make it.
And part of making those decisions is staying informed, engaged, asking those tough questions, like we're doing here. So before we wrap up, got one final thought-provoking question, something to really get our listeners thinking.
Absolutely. We've talked about intelligence, but what about wisdom? If we make an AI that's smarter than us in every way, not just processing power, but creative, empathetic, even wise, how would we even know?
Wow, that's a tough one. How would we know? What makes a being like that different?
And maybe even more important, what would our relationship be with something that intelligent?
Okay, now my brain's officially fried. In a good way. So much to think about.
It's been a pleasure. And remember, this is just the beginning of understanding AI. We're all on this journey together.
That's going to stick with me for a while, I think. Like, are we building the next generation or just, really, really smart tools? And if we can't tell, does it even matter?
It's the heart of the matter, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really makes you question what intelligence is, consciousness,
Yeah.
even our place in all of this.
It's exciting and kind of scary, right? Like we're on the edge of something huge.
And you should feel that. It's not every day we face questions that could completely change what it means to be human.
Okay, well, I need a minute to process all this. But before we go, thanks for taking this deep dive with us. What a ride through the world of AI, from, like, the dawn of computers to this mind-blowing potential.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, this conversation shouldn't end here. Talk to people about this stuff, your friends, family, coworkers. The more we understand AI, the better we can shape it.
Absolutely. Because in the end, AI's future isn't going to be decided in some lab or boardroom. It's on all of us.
And if there's one thing you take away from this, it's that you have a voice in this. Stay curious, stay informed, and never stop asking the big questions.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into artificial intelligence. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those big questions coming.